Let's review the Crime Scene Investigation Trilogy developed by Telltale Games and published by Ubisoft. This includes Hard Evidence from 2007, Deadly Intent from 2009, and Fatal Conspiracy from 2010. All titles are available on PC, Microsoft Xbox 360, and Nintendo Wii, but the PS3 only has Fatal Conspiracy on it. The developer Telltale Games specializes in creating narrative games based on popular TV and video game series. They are quite respected, and many people vouch for the consistency and quality of their work. Crime Scene Investigation, also known as CSI, is a TV series that ran from year 2000 to 2015 and was revived in 2021. You know that a series must have been successful if it runs for over 15 years. In the show, a group of law enforcement agents are solving crime mysteries. I have never watched the series, so my review will come from an outside point of view. All three games is based in the city of Las Vegas. Each game has 5 crimes to solve. You play as a nameless investigator working with the original TV show cast, and in each crime mystery, you pair up with a different character from the TV series. You get to interact with the original cast from the TV series, even though it's just one at a time. The game usually starts off by investigating the crime scene. You pick up evidence, taking photographs, finding fingerprints, shoe prints, unidentified fibers, substances, and hair. This is usually moving your mouse cursor all over the place until the cursor changes to show that you can interact with it. Sometimes evidence requires you to analyze the model to look for further clues. For example, you might pick up a murder weapon, but then you have to go to the menu, select the murder weapon, and rotate the model while scanning with your mouse cursor to see when the cursor shows that you can interact with it. After you find out you can interact with it, you will reach into your investigator toolkit to decide which tool you want to bring out. Do you want to bring out a swab, some blood detection spray, some fingerprint duster, or a molding agent? It's up to you. After gathering evidence at the crime scene, you can go to the morgue, where Dr. Albert Robbins will give you the autopsy results. You can go to the lab, where you can process the samples. In the lab, you can match fingerprints with the samples in a database, or with other fingerprints that you found. You can analyze substances to find their chemical composition. You can match DNA, compare fibers, listen to recordings, process files taken from computers, assemble broken pieces, or look into a microscope to see if the bullets or imperfections line up with the print. Each action is a mini-game that tests your skill. Eventually, you will come to a new revelation, and you will go to Jim Brass to ask for a search or arrest warrant. This will open up new locations or bring someone in for questioning. This cycle repeats until the murderer is cornered and confesses. Hard Evidence, which is the first game of the trilogy, is somewhat of a black sheep because the gameplay mechanics are different from the other two. The progression is more linear, and the main goal is to find everything there is to find rather than to make decisions. Basically, if you can click it, go ahead and click it until you exhaust all available options. This is great if you don't like to make decisions on your own, but if you want some challenging gameplay, the other two might be more up your alley. Deadly Intent and Fatal Conspiracy both share similar gameplay systems. The fact that two games have the same system suggests that the developers are happy with the system and stuck with what works. The main differences include that Jim Brass will no longer automatically give you a search and arrest warrant, but you need to present evidence to convince him to issue a warrant. Also, when you interrogate suspects, You could show evidence that they are lying, but sometimes you don't have the evidence that proves them wrong. So if you start to present non-related evidence, the CSI characters will take you aside and reprimand you for your unfounded accusations. Also, the mini-games for the latter two games are more puzzle-like, and requires you to take a little bit more time to think. The scenarios and dialogue are pretty good. Telltale's specialty shines here, because the conversations are concise, but packed with humor, character, and intent. The murder cases are mostly interesting, with multiple suspects who have motive and who left evidence at the crime scene. The first game has some audio balancing issues, with the voice being drowned out by the music, so much that I couldn't understand what was being said and had to turn on the subtitles. At first, I didn't like the graphics, mainly because the facial animation was stiff, and the expression suddenly snaps without transition. Also, the lips bend in strange shapes with sharp angles and unnatural polygon-shaped dents in the skin. But once I came to accept that the developer was probably going for a stylized look instead of realism, the facial animation bothered me less. I like how they did some of the Las Vegas environments. I have personally been to Las Vegas, and I appreciate the attempt to recreate the feel. Every time you transition to a new location, there are short clips of a drone view of Las Vegas. The cutscenes are a nice touch, but you can tell the footage is 480p resolution or worse. For a game on the Xbox 360, I would have liked the footage to be in HD at 720p. In Hard Evidence, some areas are very dark and hard to see. I had to turn off my living room's lighting in order to see everything. Maybe making things hard to see was intentional, but it wasn't a problem in the other two games. It was unusual to see real-life advertising built into the environment. In the first game, Visa and Hewlett-Packard are heavily advertised because Visa signs and stickers are all over the place, and Hewlett-Packard branding is on the lab equipment. In the third game, the computers were all changed to Asus. Actually, I don't mind real-life advertising if it helps to pay for game development. In fact, some games adds mods to games such as American Truck Simulator to show real-life brands because it helps with realism and immersion. However, in Fatal Conspiracy, all the lab computers had Trend Micro antivirus installed on them, and you had to sit through a 4-second antivirus scan whenever logging onto a machine. That was slightly excessive use of advertising. I like the CSI Trilogy, and I recommend the games if you are into solving crime in a modern, realistic world. I rarely get to play games that mimic real life so closely. If you are interested in watching my blind playthrough, the link is in the description below. Thanks for watching and happy gaming!